Hey, good morning. Welcome to Coffee and Cosmos with Robin. Today we're going to talk about how grief helps us. It may be strange to think that grief helps us, but it does, and we're going to talk about that. I'm also going to take questions for readings, if you'd like, quick readings. But just join in here today. This is a community that Times has created for us. So when you join, chime in from where you are, who you are, and where you're joining us from. So welcome again to Coffee and Cosmos with Robin. Today we're going to talk about grief helps. And again, my name is Robin Fritz. I'm an intuitive and spiritual consultant, past life regression specialist. I'm based in Seattle, Washington. And let's get started. So chime in, let me know where you are, and we'll also do some questions. I'm recovering from a cold, so if I cough, just ignore me. So let's get started. We're going to talk about grief helps. Let's do a grounding and balancing exercise with Fallon, the citrine Lemurian quartz. As you focus on Fallon, take your attention to the top of your head. Breathe down your body from head to toe. And just let go of the cares of the day and allow yourself to be part of this group. Breathing down from the top of your head, down your face, shoulders, chest, hips, knees, and feet. The top of your head to the bottom of your feet. And as you breathe back up, from your feet, knees, chest, hips, shoulders. Backwards. And the top of your head. So, just feel that energy line running down from the top of your head to your feet and back up again. And just feel the healthy energy coming from the crystal and know that you're connected with it, however your intuition works most strongly. So thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be moving to a different page, and at the last minute we decided to stay here at Humanity Healing. So let's talk about how grief helps us right now. So we usually think of grief in terms of in relation to dying. So we lose a beloved human or animal, and we grieve their loss. We grieve being left without them. We grieve them being gone. But grief is also a way to process change, right? It's an emotion that helps us process change, and what we're going through now with the virus worldwide is certainly change. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And excuse me, again, tail end of a cold. Please chime in. Let me know who you are, where you're joining us from, what your questions are today, how we can help each other. I'm even doing some quick readings. So grief. Grief is a way of processing change. And I know I've dealt with grief really all my life, having lost a brother to cancer when I was only 9, and then just going through the ups and downs of life. And right now, many of us are afraid that we're going to lose loved ones to the virus, or even ourselves, that we're afraid that people will get sick and even die. And that's grief. That's totally legitimate. And that's why I wanted to talk about grief today. A lot of people are feeling guilty because they're grieving and they're well. And but grief isn't just about dying. Grief is about losing income, being afraid to pay bills. Grief is, especially for those of us in the United States, I mean, we're not used to wearing face masks, wearing gloves in public. We're not used to being asked to stay home. We're not used to going to the grocery store and finding empty shelves. We're not used to the changes that an invisible virus has brought to the world. And the abrupt changes and the confusion about how to get around in the world, being separated from friends and even family, that's brought grief. And what I've heard from people in the last few weeks is, well, I shouldn't be grieving. No one I know has died. No one I know is sick, or a few people were sick and they got over it. And they feel guilty for grieving, But I'm telling you, I know from long experience and working as a medium with people, working as an intuitive consultant and as a spiritual consultant, grief is real and it is part of us, and it is okay to feel grief. And in fact, allowing ourselves to feel grief helps us to move through it. And by moving through it, it keeps energy flowing. So let's talk about how to get grief and let it move through us. So, and again, we're grieving a loss of a way of life that we've had. We're grieving change, and we don't know when the change will leave. Will leave us. We don't know when we'll get back to normal. We don't know what normal will look like again. And that's all okay. We're all in this together, right? As I talked about last week, it's all about connection. It's all about keeping energy moving. So let's look at grief as moving through us. So one way that you can deal with your grief, whatever you're grieving, even if you're wishing it was a sunny day and it's raining where you are, set a time, create a ritual to acknowledge grief. Okay, rituals aren't all just about happiness. Rituals are a way of acknowledging things. So you can say, I'm setting a time to acknowledge grief. Invite your spiritual team in and let's do it together. Let's acknowledge grief right here. We're acknowledging grief. We're each inviting our spiritual team to join us, right? And now we're going to bring body, mind, and spirit together. So let's think about how grief affects us in our body. We can feel it physically. We can feel it depressing us. That's body, mind, and spirit. We can maybe feel a loss of faith in the belief systems that we had, or in community, whatever. Acknowledge that. Just take a moment and acknowledge whatever it is you may be feeling grief about. It's okay to do that. So think about what you're grieving and allow yourself to feel that grief somewhere inside your body. For some of it, it may be right in your gut. For others, it may be heart pain. For me, right now, it's a little bit of chest congestion with this cold I have. And yes, don't worry. I'm all checked out. I'm fine. I just have a cold. So acknowledge where you feel the grief residing in your body. So right now I'm saying, okay, I have grief with this lung congestion. I would rather not have it, especially right now. No one wants to be on the verge of bronchitis when a virus attacks the lungs. So I'm grieving that I have this cold, and going to let it go, right? So acknowledge it and sit with that feeling, where it feels in your body. And then invite the grief to move through you. And this is where, when we're grieving a lost loved one, where we sit and the grief just stays. It's great to acknowledge grief. We need to acknowledge grief, but it needs to keep moving. So once you acknowledge it, once you feel it somewhere in your body, just say, grief, you need to move on, right? It's time to let it move through you. It's time to let that grief go. And then, what would we replace the grief with? Okay, so I'm going to go to my lungs that are fighting off this cold and say, hey, going to replace grief with good health, grief with love, grief with connection to my animal family, to my friends and neighbors who brought me soup and checked in on me, to the good weather, to the world around me, and just replace with love and connection. And as you replace that grief with love and connection, with purpose, with whatever positive, healthy thing you want to replace it with, you can feel that change going on in your body, in your mind, and in your spirit, right? That's what it's all about. And as that grief moves through you, thank your spiritual team for joining you, and you're done, right? So there's that ritual. Create a ritual and do it every morning when you wake up and every night when you go to bed. I'm grieving, I'm letting grief go. I invite my spiritual team in. I find where I feel grief in my body. I invite it to sit with me for a moment so I can acknowledge it, and then I let it go and replace it with something that will boost me up. It's tough, I recognize that. But very simply, by allowing grief to move through us, we're keeping energy moving. And as I've talked about in previous videos, the key is to keep energy moving. The key to life really is to keep energy moving. That makes life as easy as possible for all of us. So when energy is stuck, that's grief weighing you down. Okay, that's one form of energy being stuck. And then grief is something we dread. It's something that weighs us down emotionally, that keeps us from moving forward. So acknowledging that grief is okay to feel is one way to keep it moving through you. It helps us process change, and it will keep energy moving. It doesn't mean that your grief is not acknowledged, that you don't have something real to grieve, especially those who are losing loved ones at any time. But acknowledging and allowing it to flow through will help keep energy flowing, right? So you can also do that breathing technique I showed you before. It's out there everywhere. Breathe in to a count of 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold for a count of 4, and release for a count of 4. That helps bring calm and centeredness back. So I want to get to your questions or your comments and deal with that, and we can share back and forth. But I also wanted to give you a crystal of the week. This is a chunk of aquamarine. And I love aquamarine. I also have an aquamarine pendant. Aquamarine is often associated with water, so sailors used aquamarine, to keep themselves safe on the seas. But aquamarine is also a crystal for truth. It helps you speak your truth. It helps, keep that energy flowing. So consider if you'd like a piece of aquamarine. Now, a big chunk is expensive. This one wasn't so much. It's not polished, and I like that. But if you're learning to speak your truth or to be in your truth, especially now when there's so much information about the virus, conspiracy theories, people are upset and concerned, aquamarine will help you get to the truth of the matter for you. So let me see what people's comments are. Christy, good morning. Grief is hitting hard right now. You're high school senior and you are struggling with losing her events and continued struggle with sports in college. Please help with anything you sense with celebration, success with sports. Your heart is broken and you feel it very strongly. Christy, thank you so much for sharing. Yes, and I know you're one of many people and this is a huge life change with school being canceled. I live in Washington State. We were the first state in the United States to experience the coronavirus. We've been living with it for many weeks now. And we were one of the first states to shut things down. And our governor has just extended the stay-at-home order through the 4th or 5th of May. Everything has changed for us, and everything has changed for you and your student. And I know that. And I know that if you try this exercise and let it flow through you, allowing that grief to flow through you is going to help bolster you in tough times. I know it may sound like empty words, but allowing that movement of energy will help. I think what's going to happen is that we are going to want to get back to normal for our schools, and that they're simply going to graduate these seniors and move them on forward to college. It may take some time. It's a year and a half before they have a vaccine for those people who want to be vaccinated. So it's going to be an up and down process. And one thing is that we can take the longer perspective. And I'm not saying that sports aren't important or that school isn't important. It is. But we're going to have to find new ways of celebrating. And we can all right here acknowledge you and your senior, wishing her well in her upcoming graduation. And she'll be able to look back on this in the future and say, wow, that was a very different time. We conquered the virus. We hung together. And it didn't look like what I expected. But things will change and different things will come. I'm not saying the things that come will be better. They'll be different. And you'll find a way to celebrate that. Why? Because you're strong. Because the fact that you feel grief means that you love. And honestly, love is everything. And I didn't used to believe that. I used to think that love was fussy pink little hearts. And I'm like, oh, Lord. But I had a little dog named Alki. And he loved me to the moon and back. And I loved him. And he really taught me how important just love is. So, I want you to know that love is what you're showing your daughter. And whatever change comes from that is going to be okay because you're going through it together. And create a ritual for her. Create a celebration for her sports, for her school, for her going off to college. Because they're not going to stop. They're going to keep things moving forward. It's going to look different for a while. A lot longer than they're saying. And that's okay, because we're all in it together and we're going to get through it together. And you and your daughter are leaders for the future. So let me see what other comments, if I can. Oh, there we go. I can only get it moving. So Christy, I hope that helps. Belgium, Ian from Belgium. How are things over in Belgium? Marcella, thank you too. Yes, Terry, thank you. Terry, good point. Terry's saying, I'm hoping nothing goes back to normal. You're right, Terry. Our world needs to be a new normal of love and healing. And we see signs of that everywhere. We see signs of it in our elected officials, our elected leaders. We elected these people to manage our government, to keep the garbage cans from overflowing, to keep our hospital systems running, to keep the streets clear, and to just keep life moving. And some of those leaders are stepping up and some are not. And we can see that very clearly, right? So going back to normal, we'll have to define what normal is. I think one thing that this virus has done for all of us is pull us together as a world, and that needed to be done, right? And what an amazing thing it is that we're all worried about people in other countries. We're all sending them love and support. We're all hoping that we all get through this together. And as I think back to my parents who went through World War II and their parents who went through World War I, on top of depressions and, like I said before, polio, all of those things that they faced. We've had it relatively easy, and now we can see how easy it is to lose a way of life that we had, and a way to rebuild it again, to rebuild what we want it to look like. And here's a place, Humanity Healing in Home Times. Here's a place where we can come together and we can say, yes, we're grieving. We acknowledge what we're grieving. We're letting that flow through us. And we're going to come out the other side with love and purpose and connection. And we're going to try to remember that. Try to hold on to that. Let's see who else is. Sorry, not always easy for me to make this thing scroll. So I want to thank you for everyone for joining me. I'm not sure I got to everyone's comments. I tried. I see the comments in here. Victoria, hey, thanks for joining us. Nina, right, time for self-care. Perfect. John, oh, your mom passed away. Oh, I'm so sorry, John. And please accept all our condolences on the loss of your mother. It is so hard to lose a parent. Believe me, I lost mine 10 months apart. Funerals are limited to only 4 people. Your sister, so I'm sorry. So John, what you're saying is your sister had the funeral and you and your brother and your families were not allowed to attend. I'm sorry. And I know that you have the love and support of everyone here in your grief. And I know I have a book about the afterlife coming out, and I've dealt a lot with grief in working with my clients, both mediumship and intuition clients. And so I can tell you that you can conduct your own ceremony for your mom. It isn't, I mean, it would be nice to have been there with the body to have that kind of closure. And funerals are really important for closure. They're important for the living and for the dead. But you can celebrate your mother's life. You can have her funeral right there in your own home. You and your brother can set it up and do a video conference together and do it together. Because honestly, I can tell you that the dead are paying attention to their funerals, and your mom is not going to mind having more than one funeral. So try that. I know it hurts that you got excluded, but you can create your own ceremony. And think about it. What would you want to do with that ceremony? I would suggest sea salt or any kind of salt to put in a bowl, a flower, a picture of your mom, some memento of her. Have your own funeral self. Tell the fun stories, tell the sad stories. Say why you're grieving because you've lost your mom, because you couldn't attend that other funeral. But here's your own funeral. That takes the power back for you. It also allows you to have that connection with your mom, that final goodbye of the body. But, that spirit stays alive. Our souls retain the consciousness of those bodies. So you're still going to be able to tell your mom you miss her and you're sorry she's gone. John, I hope this helps. Because I know for a fact, having attended family funerals, that no one is going to mind another one. In fact, your mom might get a kick out of it, especially if you celebrate fun memories and then tell her how much you miss her. So I hope that helps, John. Come back next week. I think I'm going to be on a different page. We're working that out, Own Times Magazine page. But you can check my own page, The Practical Intuitive, and find out where we are next Monday. And let us know what you and your brother did to celebrate your mom's life, right? To say goodbye. And you could just have an amazing time, and that help with the grief. Be with her family. I'm like a weird person to become a medium. I blame it on my father, who died in 1994 and came and said, you need to be a medium. I can help you connect with these people because there's a lot of grief back and forth. The living are reaching for the dead and the dead are reaching for the living. And I'm like, what? Because I never used to think about death, and I never used to believe in an afterlife. And now I know for sure there is one, and I know our loved ones are there. And I know your mom is watching, John. So make it big, make it fun, have a feast, whatever it is. Right now I see people can't get yeast to make bread, and I'm like, when was the last time I made bread? That's not going to be a big loss for me, but for others. So figure out what it is you do. Shema, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. You're feeling sad? I know. A lot of us are, and I'm glad to see you too. Thank you for joining us here. And and thank you for saying that, Terry, because it is true. Our bodies are temporary. Our souls go on forever. And I started realizing this with my animal family as I awakened again to the intuitive life that I had before I became an adult and put it all aside. And one thing that we're noticing now is we're getting a lot of help, right? This virus is a tipping point for our planet. And I'm not saying like the planet's going to die or anything like that. I'm saying this is an opportunity for us to decide who we want to be our leaders, how we want to be led, and how we are going to lead. For example, in the United States, a lot of us were saying, if there's a virus out there and it's that contagious, maybe we should be wearing face masks. Not something that people in the United States are used to, but people in Asia are, and now it comes out that the government is saying wear face masks, and we didn't tell you to do that before because we wanted to keep them for the first responders and medical providers. And we're thinking, okay, people, you need to start thinking more clearly. So this is our opportunity to stand up as the governed to say what it is we want our governments to look like and why. That we want them to be inclusive, that we want every life to be valued, that we want our country, when this is over, to have a day of mourning followed by a day of thanksgiving. That we came together when it counted, right? Because every single one of us matters. And that we're not going to tolerate anymore, that none of us matter. So thanks for joining us. John, I hope that helps, right? Thank you so much, everyone. Believe in your own self-healing ability. Exactly. Right? Allow your body to heal. I've been helping somebody on a project for the last 6 weeks. And I pushed myself to finish it, and I finished it yesterday afternoon. It was like, oh, thank goodness. We're done with that. Now I'm going to turn to new projects back into the community, the books that I wanted to write that I'm getting out. And we all have something that we can do, right? So go out there, make face masks, ask your neighbors what they need, ask for help if you need it. It isn't wrong to ask for help. And in fact, right now, I think there are a lot of people that would be grateful to be asked to help for something. So thank you all for chiming in. Being grateful for everyone. Awesome. All right, so let me remind you of this healing technique that I taught you before. So if you're feeling helpless, right? If you're feeling like, wow, I'm not a medical provider, I'm not a first responder. We know these people are literally falling from exhaustion as well as illness, and we need to bolster them. We need to bolster our world right now. We need to say to the virus, hey, you're not a natural thing. You need to go. You need to change. You need to not kill us. You need to not make us sick. We are changing the way we live in the world. So let's do some energy healing. You can do this all day long, every single day. Do it in the morning when you wake up. Do it at night before you go to sleep. Hands on your heart. Breathe in healthy energy. It's all around you. Remember what I've said before. Energy is sentient. So invite energy to go out to support the people who are trying to take care of us. Whether they're grocers, whether they're delivery people, first responders, medical providers, whatever. Send that energy out, right? Sending that energy out. Join me. Send that energy out. And now, hands on the heart. Breathe that energy back into you. Bolster yourself, right? Letting grief move through us. Letting love and purpose in. Letting connection in. This will keep us going. So, thank you for joining me today. You can find me on my Facebook page, The Practical Intuitive. You can find my website, robinfritz.com. I'm offering all my sessions, intuitive sessions, 1-hour sessions, half off through the end of the month, right? So email me if you'd like a session. But mostly, send out that love and connection to the world. Thank you for being here today. Let me know how I can help. Take care.